In 2009, the microdistillery movement officially hit the UK, simultaneously ending a nearly 200-year dry spell in the establishment of new distilleries in London. Sacred Spirits, one of the smallest of the early distilleries to be established, and the brainchild of distiller and co-founder Ian Hart, is unique in being one of the first to use vacuum distillation rather than the more traditional pot still. I decided to visit Ian at his distillery and home to find out a bit more about Sacred Spirits. To start the tour, Ian Hart, founder of Sacred Distillers, is taking us to where he stores his botanicals and other ingredients used in his truly handcrafted spirits. This is where it all begins.
Spent 3 days on them last week, taking the stones out of organic English plums. These are Jubileum plums. There are 4,200 plum stones in there. And we'll use that to make our spiced English vermouth. So as you can see, the plum stones there beginning to infuse a little bit of flavour.
Now, how many bottles does this actually produce?
1,000 stones will do about 3,700 bottles. So that's enough to do about 16,000 bottles there. There we go. There's some pink grapefruit. This is another of our...
That looks amazing.
This is from language. These are Spanish pink grapefruits, which have been peeled, whole fruit. And this again is going to be one of our botanically focused gins for the US.
Wow.
Yeah, it smells fantastic.
That is unbelievable.
So when you distill that and use it as a gin component, it's just fantastic. Again, fresh fruit, because our vacuum distillation is low temperature, which we'll come on to shortly. Our low temperature distillation avoids cooking those into marmalade flavours, so it'll be like that.
On my visit to Sacred Spirits, Ian Hart was in the process of vacuum distilling tomato stalks that had been macerating for over a year. Once the tomato stock mixture had all been poured into the jacketed still, liquid nitrogen must then be added to the secondary condenser in order that the vacuum distillation process can begin. Ian's goal is to create with the resulting tomato distillate a powerful flavored vodka for the ultimate Bloody Mary.
Okay, so today we're distilling tomato stalks. I like the idea of distilling tomato stalks because when you go into a greenhouse on a warm day and you have tomatoes and you're harvesting them, there's that fantastic smell, pure greenhouse tomato smell. When you take them back to your salad plate, however, you leave some of that flavour and that smell behind. That's because that aroma lives in the tomato flowers and in the green stalks themselves. So we've been macerating English organic tomato stalks in grain spirit for, in this particular case, over a year with no air contact. Air contact spoils it completely. So no air contact. We're now doing vacuum distillation at currently 52.7 degrees centigrade. We're pumping warm water from a Grant sous vide machine, which has been warming the water through a central heating pump in through this pipe. This is warming our tomato stalk distillate, and as you can see, we're getting a fairly healthy boil at a low temperature. This is vacuum distillation, enabling the low temperature distillation in the first place. And the vapours come up around here, and as you can see, they're condensing this water-cooled condenser. Some of the vapours do escape, and so we have a secondary condenser over here, which is chilled with a secondary amount of water, but also some liquid nitrogen. So, as you can see, we're also capturing what would otherwise be called the angels, and they'd be lost to the outside environment. So vacuum distillation enables boiling to occur at a much lower temperature. So typically up at about 85 to 95 centigrade is a regular pot still temperature. Those temperatures cause fresh citrus to turn into marmalade. Now, I love marmalade, but vacuum distillation is much lower temperature, typically 35, 45 centigrade, and this retains the essential freshness of your fresh cut organic citrus and other fruit as well. So vacuum distillation is a late 19th century process, and it's been used a lot in oil refineries, for example, but only recently I'm certainly one of the first to be using it to produce gin. This jacketed still is much more scalable, so this is our step to larger production. I mean, we don't want to move out of this house, but we've got good production even just using what we have here. Actually producing about 20,000 bottles per year with the capacity to do probably 30. So our intention is to get to 100,000 bottles a year, and simply, as you can see, there are various slots which are becoming available for more equipment, but we don't really want to move out of this room, let alone this house or neighbourhood. Seal over the top there. I'm still learning how to use this properly.
Located just feet from the still is Sacred's bottling machine that can bottle up to 100 bottles per day.
One of the other features which is unusual about Sacred Gin is that we use royal grade frankincense. This is one of the most expensive resins in the world. It has a lovely, gently resinous flavour. Of course, the juniper bush itself is a type of pine, so a little bit of modulation of the juniper tones is quite acceptable, and also does date back. People used to use woods and resins in addition to juniper back in the 17th century when London dry gin was first invented.
While Ian was burning the high-grade frankincense used in Sacred's gin, I marveled at all the work necessary in sourcing the best organic ingredients from around the world. Not to mention all the preparation and time needed for each ingredient or botanical prior to distillation. I was curious to know how and why Sacred Distilleries got started.
I was effectively out of a job when Lehman went bust. They were one of my biggest clients, and in fact they'd stopped giving out headhunting work a year before they finally went bust. So I started thinking, well, what next? I have to reinvent my career. I started distilling Bordeaux wine, and that's how I came to my vacuum distillation equipment, because I wanted to re-engineer Bordeaux wines without making them damaged by heat or oxidation. Hence, vacuum distillation starting with a rotovap.
So you started in 2009, correct?
2008, but our proper license came through in early 2009. So after the gin craze, or gin madness if you like, of the early 18th century, the authorities made it very difficult to distill, and there was a tremendous consolidation. The 1,500 residential distilleries were no longer able to do it. There was a £50 license, that's quite famous. There was a lot of money in those days. Nowadays, licenses are actually given out for free, came free of charge in 7 days.
From start to finish, though, in developing your recipes, how long?
6 to 9 months. There's a lot of things you need to learn in your first few distillations. And in fact, one thing I realised is that the flavour intensity and the actual blend, the actual ingredients you use, all of those are tremendously variable in terms of what the final product is going to be. So that's how we started doing separate individual botanical distillations. But yes, we have distilled pure coriander seed, distilled pure nutmeg, distilled pure grapefruit, orris, cassia, licorice, obviously there's juniper as well, which is in the picture, angelica. So we continue to make these distillates available for other people so they can have fun without needing to own a distillery. Actually, I'd say our most important markets now are, we've just started selling to Japan. We are now in over 30 states in the United States. The Spanish market, but we continue to expand into new markets, which is great. Australia and New Zealand, for example.
What's been the feedback so far?
Spiced English vermouth we make with English wine from Three Quires Vineyard in Gloucestershire, using English organic wormwood from Somerset and 23 other botanicals, is extremely popular in the United Kingdom. In the United States, people seem to be very good. We have pre-orders because we're just bottling at the moment. The individual botanical distillates, so bartenders can create their own gins. Those look like they're going to be very popular. Obviously, there's a lot of gins in the US from all the hundreds of micro distilleries, so we have a point of difference there with our individual distillates. So it's a learning process. You know, we started from scratch. We didn't really understand the market at all to start with, but bit by bit, we're beginning to get to grips with it.